Well, let's just start with what's driving this optimism.
Yeah, I think just to start out, firstly, I think there's not a sort of almost just one story about this. We looked at 10 countries, and it's more stories of individual countries which are very diverse and very complex. So I think that's just the point to make, and we then looked at 10 countries. So what is driving the optimism? Well, I think it's really looking at these CEOs understanding what is happening in Africa and understanding the risks, and believing and being successful at managing that and successful at growing that. And I suppose seeing less of a dependency on Europe and some of the other economies globally that are not doing so well.
I wanted to talk a little bit about risk, because that seemed to come up a lot, and a lot of companies, changing their strategies to be able to meet the risk that they're coming across when they're working on the African continent. So I just want to talk a little bit about, I would imagine that business in Africa knows how to do business in Africa, so that when you're looking at risk and you're an African business, you're probably not looking at risk the way Europe would look at risk, or the way a US would look at risk. That you're probably more comfortable with it, or more well known with how it works.
Yeah, it was certainly teased out. So I think just in terms of risks, there's some general risk being the ones of economic uncertainty, political instability and so on. But the specific ones would be really looking at infrastructure, looking at sort of energy supplies, looking at political risks, including tax and others. But I think these CEOs saying, look, we understand the risks, and some examples really of Lagos where someone's power dependent and really can use some, but sort of instead of having one generator, it puts up two, but really making sure that power is available at all times. So it's literally working around those risks that are out there.
I want to speak a little bit about that tax burden, because one of the stories that we're hearing now is, for instance, a country like Namibia has got this tax that it's proposed now. They haven't put it in place right now, a windfall tax, particularly for the mining industry. So when you have those kind of things that are coming into the market, it does make it a little bit uncertain of that. How much of it is an issue? You talk about looking at 10 countries. How much of that is an issue, the tax burden?
Yeah. So I think, mostly people are saying that it is a concern. But it also, I suppose, it comes down to competitiveness. When someone looks to entering into Africa, South Africa, or being at the rest of Africa, they'd certainly go to the most attractive area, and with additional and cumbersome taxes in addition to one would normally expect. That obviously would make it less attractive. So there's certainly competition for foreign direct investment in these areas, and tax would play a big role.
One of the things that was concerning to me was the issue again of talent management and the issue of skills, and sometimes not being able to get the skills that business wants, and then sometimes when they do get those skills, we're talking about the cost of keeping people that are really talented, and how businesses are struggling to do that. And why it's a concern to me is because this is not the first time that I'm hearing that, and very recently.
Yeah. So yeah, skills obviously a major concern, talent and so on. So firstly, I think all the businesses are saying, look, retention is absolutely crucial. Just for starters, so once people are in, and it's really saying, look, they've got the DNA of the company embedded in there. Firstly, and then secondly, they understand the culture of the country. So I think that's almost like an opening. So that sort of drives the importance of that.
So what I'm not getting is, why is it difficult to hold on to talent once they find it, especially if it is difficult? I mean, I was reading a place where you're talking about CEOs, for instance, it being difficult to find the right CEO, and then when they do find it, not being able to keep them. What is it that where's their problem?
Yeah. So I think two specific examples. So in Zambia, sort of we get a quote saying, look, our people are being poached at 2 and 3 times the salary they earn with us. So that's certainly a problem. We've seen in Tanzania, people are saying, look, our employees are leaving us, and starting their own businesses, and they almost describe that as a success. But I think with economic growth, it's expected that there will be a call on talent. But then saying, so what are they doing about it? Yes, they are looking for locals, say in Uganda, looking at people who've left Uganda and looking to bring them back. And they're finding that certainly there's a lot of keenness from people who've left Uganda, and certainly other African countries, such as our own, to return to where they're from.
I want to talk about bribery and corruption. That was a concern. It was considered a major risk to economic growth by 69% of African CEOs, and in that, South African CEOs also saying about 66% of them concerned about corruption and bribery when it comes to doing business on the African continent. We hear about this so often, and so it's a very difficult one to tackle because we're talking about so many different countries. But just in terms of how seriously governments are taking this, how seriously businesses are taking this, that they are putting a stop to it, where are we?
Yeah, I think if we, to get to that, I think if there was a wish list from business to government and governments, it would certainly say, how about, sorting the infrastructure, how about getting the, sort of skills in there, and so that people are working, and then sort of addressing poverty. So then say, okay, so where does come, some of it could come from poverty and people saying, look, let's do that. The second area is sort of clean up government, because some of that is perceived to be from government, is to clean that up and make sure that it's efficient, because that'll certainly get the cost down. So really addressing the cause of, dealing with it at the root of it more than anything else.
Thank you so much for joining us.